What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Rise Up Rich podcast. I'm your host, David Haas. Got a special guest in the studio today, good friend of mine, Jamie O'Neill, who is the hidden gem of this area, of the world, actually. The hidden gem of the world. And Jamie's actually been really instrumental in my own healing journey about understanding that I need to be healthy on all levels, mind, body, and soul. We've been pretty close for the last year or so, but we've known each other for a few years. Well, actually, we've known each other way back in the day, the treehouse days, back when you were playing soccer. But I think she's really got a good handle on overall wellness, I would say, as a lack of a better term. And I'm super happy to have her on. This is probably going to be one of many segments that I think Jamie and I do together, just because she has just so much value that this podcast would have to be 4 hours long if we went through everything. So Jamie, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's about time. We've tried to plan this for a couple months now. You're busy.
So, so let's dig right into it, because I think, you and I have been kind of on this, I don't even know what you want to call it. I call it like a journey of awareness, kind of, just like learning to uncover as much as we possibly can, understanding what programs we're buying into. We have a mutual friend, Andrew, that we were in these groups together. Everyone would think was kind of weird, and it's like a spiritual group where we're getting together talking about our feelings and whatnot. But through that process, just having I don't want to call it desire, but the desire to move up the scale of consciousness, it brings in new awarenesses to you at all times. And I think you've been able to do that, really well for yourself. I think you're at a place where you're happy, and people are like looking to you saying like, what are you doing? Right. And that's kind of like where it started for me in coaching, is like people were just seeing my life being like easy. They're like, I was in like good shape. I was making good money. I was happy. I was healthy. These kinds of things. And people are like, what are you doing? Like, I'm over here grinding, hustling, and killing myself, and you're just kind of like just floating, right? And then, and it's not 100% true, because I have my struggles, but I think you're in that same similar state where you're in this like state of flow. And today we want to go over. You wanted to go over like 3 things that you can do today that are free. I love that are free, that can dramatically improve your life. And these are from your own experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone has a journey. And when reflecting back on mine, I kind of was going through 3, I guess would say, pivotal moments that helped shift everything for me. So I jotted those down, and I noticed that none involve extra money, none involve extra time. And they're all just things you could do as yourself, like protecting your energy and kind of taking care of your own self and making yourself a priority. So I jotted those down, and there's 3 things. So if you're listening, I know a lot of the times we say, oh, we're going to remember, but go get a pen, go get a piece of paper, a marker, a lipstick, whatever you have to write these down. So take a moment, go get them and write these down. So especially if they don't resonate with you right now, you might look back in your notebook in a month, 2 months, 2 years, whenever. You might be like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this. And that's when it's going to be time for you to be ready to implement these changes. So grab your pen and start taking note. Again, listen first, and then just take note for what resonates with you the most. You don't have to go word for word.
Yeah, let me interrupt real quick there. I think the one thing that is super important about what you said there is that sometimes we need to hear things like 100 times before they finally sink in. So I think it's really good that you said like maybe this isn't the time that you hear it that it's gonna sink in, but it's just the awareness. It's like kind of like planting that seed, right? So whether you actually implement this or not, this will be maybe the first time you hear it, but if this is the multiple times that you've heard this, then it's time to finally like take action.
Oh yeah, if you've heard this more than once and you're hearing it again, this is definitely for you. So our first one, I like to call this the 33% rule. So the 33% rule is massive on, I guess I would say, protecting your energy, because a lot of us have people that kind of drain us, or you go into situations or environments where you're like, wow, you feel completely drained after. So this 33% rule kind of helps you stay in balance. So what this is you have 3 categories: a top, a middle, and a bottom, okay? So 33% of your energy, or 33.334 or whatever percent of your energy, has to be balanced within those. I would say within your week, within your month, however you feel you're most balanced. So you are in your middle 33%, Okay, so that means 33% of the people and environments you surround yourself with are like-minded and kind of on your level. For our spiritual listeners, those people will be vibing at roughly around the same level of consciousness as you. So they could be friends, your family, co-workers, whatever, but you bounce ideas back and forth and you're very like-minded. You don't drain each other's energy. You kind of help each other as you go. So again, 33% of your energy has to go in those environments. Then everyone here is for service. Whether you believe you are here for service or not, our sole purposes as a collective, every single person is here for some type of service in some way. So 33% of your energy you would put in the category below you. So 33% goes to helping others and servicing them, whether it be through work, through advice, some are even friends. But those are the people you help lift up to, I guess you would say, your level, or help them become the best versions of themselves. So that, if we are not servicing, we kind of feel depleted, like we may not feel like we have worth. So it's very important that we are doing some type of service, whether it be helping somebody cook a meal, your job, always being that extra hand, or the friend or a family member that people go to. We all have something to offer, and we could get into that on another topic, but you are here for service. So the other 33%, service. Now the other 33% is above you, and I think this is where a lot of us kind of get stuck. So 33% above you is your mentors, people who you aspire to be like. If you're trying to manifest something, are you surrounding your energy with that type of person or environment, or even listening to a motivational speaker, reading a book, listening to a podcast? So you have to be up-leveling or putting your energy, that's something that's going to help pull you up so you're continuously growing, okay? So 33% is helping you. 33% is you and your friends helping each other out along the way, kind of similar. And 33% is your service. Now, the problem we have to notice is wherever most of our energy goes, whatever category, is not necessarily where we're going to be. But if we have too much energy in just ourselves and it's only friends, like-minded people, we're not growing. If we have too much energy helping those below us, we're going to end up sinking down to that level. And if we have too much energy going into how can I be better, how can I do this, you're going to feel a little defeated and maybe feel you have a lack of worth because you're not there yet. So it's very, very important to have balance in those categories. So now that you know this, be mindful of it and practice it. So now that you heard this, you will get an opportunity to practice it. That is when you practice and you up level. Again, be very kind to yourself because this may be the first time you're hearing this, and just take action one way or the other. And if it's not perfect right away, that's okay, because over time it'll get easier and easier and easier.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. It's actually, that's like right out of like the AA model as well, which is like you always have a sponsor, and you're always sponsoring somebody else, right? And I guess the middle 33 would be the collective group consciousness, potentially, that you could call it that. So I really love that model, and I've actually noticed a few things on my own end, like as a coach, like I spend a lot of my time with clients, and not that they're I would say below my level, but I'm trying to help bring them up, right? I'm trying to help them see the things that I've been able to see, so that they can live like a more stress-free, happy life, essentially, is what I'm trying to coach these people to do. And I was just thinking about myself when I was doing that. I'm probably more like 66, helping 33%, like in my, maybe even 30% in my, like around people that are at the same level as me. And I do a lot of personal development, so I'm constantly listening to books and everything, but it's not 33% of my time. It's 33% of my life. It's 30 minutes a day kind of thing, right? Where I'm spending time with people that are at a higher level, or a level that I'm aspiring to be at. So I think it's super interesting. And the other thing that came to mind when I was listening to that was that so many of us get stuck in low states of consciousness that are extremely hard to get out of. Like when you were talking about this, the state of apathy came up to me, right? And in the state of apathy, when you're the victim, it's like you feel like the whole entire world is against you, and you don't have a purpose. And they're like, what's the sense of going on? These kinds of things. And one of the ways out of apathy is through service. So it's like you can volunteer, you can do anything to help other people, like walk someone's dog, carry someone's groceries, help an old lady across the street, whatever it may be. And it's going to start making you feel more fulfilled, giving you the energy for life to like kind of find that purpose, and hopefully it'll help you get connected to people that can help lift you up as well. And that is actually the second part of how to get out of apathy, is get help, right? So definitely 100% aligned with the message, and I think it's super powerful. So how would you, let's talk about the all three levels quickly, right? Yeah. Okay, so the middle level I feel is like the easiest one. Mm-hmm. It's like you're kind of always around, and Andrew always said, there's only two conversations happening in coffee shops, which is, this is my opinion about this, and yes, I agree with you, right? Because usually if we have people that disagree with our opinions or don't see eye to eye with us, they're not in our circle, right? So I feel like a lot of times that we kind of really, I don't want to say protect, but that 33% is like where we're most comfortable.
Absolutely.
Would that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then I feel the helping people and the going to find people that are above you are where people probably struggle the most, right? So let's talk about like helping others. Like what would be a way to be of service to other people?
So it could be simple, like in your own household, for example. Say you have kids or a significant other, you could service them by literally acts of service. Make them a lunch, clean up something that's their chore or duty or whatever you need to do, but it's some type of service to ease their own life, I guess you would say. What can you do to help make somebody's day easier? What can you help provide of value to help make somebody's life better, or lighten their day, or lighten their load? And it's going to be different for everybody, and everyone who works. I'm sure there's many people out there who do their job and part of someone else's. So maybe those people might want to watch that energy and make sure that's in balance. But a lot of times it's just that extra hand, that act of service, random act of kindness day needs to be every day. So whenever you get the opportunity to do it, just do it. You walk by a piece of garbage on the street, pick it up. Maybe one day you're like, wow, that lady let me in Tim Hortons, I'm going to pay for her coffee. Or there's so many opportunities in our day. They're everywhere. We just have to notice them and then take action on them. And it could be so simple. It could be complimenting someone. I went for a frozen yogurt a couple weeks ago, and there's a new employee there, and I look at her, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I love your eyebrows. And she was like, lit up her day, but I actually meant it. They were so perfect. And as a woman, like, it's hard to get perfect eyebrows. Right. So it's just like, sometimes it's just say what you mean, especially if you like something of somebody's, or you want to give a compliment, just say it. Don't be shy. And yeah.
No, I think that's great, because I think when people think of like helping others, they're always like, I mean, for me, when I used to think of helping others, I was always like to envision myself like at a soup kitchen passing out soup, and it's like, it doesn't have to be like that kind of help. It can, there's opportunities to help people like all around you at all times, right? And it's essentially, I think, the point that you're making.
Yep.
That you can literally be of service at all times. I always tell the story of, my wife would always come home and she would drop her coat on the floor. It used to drive me nuts. Like, it was just like, she was constantly just, I was like, I tried forever to like get her to get in the mindset of hanging her coat up, right? Which you think you wouldn't have to tell a 25-year-old woman or whatever that time it was. But then I just recontextualized it, right? And instead of bitching at her about dropping her coat on the floor, I just started picking it up for her, right? And not out of spite, not out of anger, just allowing myself to do something nice for her, right? Which was to hang up her coat so that the cat back in the day didn't pee on it, because we had a cat that used to pee on everything. So I would just start doing it, and just that one small act of kindness is like, it makes you feel a little bit better about yourself, and makes you feel a little bit more deserving. And that's one thing I think so many people get stuck on, is they feel like they're unworthy, right? And they don't deserve a good life. And one way to start feeling worthy is to start giving back and just looking for the opportunities to give back. One of the things that I discovered about my dad in his death, which is sad, was that he was a guy that would like just bring so much joy to people's lives all the time. Like he used to go to the convenience store all the time. This is probably where I get my convenience store addiction, is he would go to the convenience store every single day, right? And he would never just go into the convenience store, buy his cigarettes and his pop and just pay. Like it was always a conversation. It was always like talking to him, making a funny joke. And as a kid, I was embarrassed by it. But now I'm like, because the reason that this awareness came to me was because the convenience store owner came to my dad's funeral, right? Which was like, how crazy is that? Like how much of a friendship did they develop over time? Like they knew each other's kids and like names and that's just what he did. He just like brought joy to people's lives, and it was simple. And yeah, that's something I didn't see. I wasn't unable to see because I kind of had the blinders on of my dad was this like bad father kind of thing, and I wasn't unable to see that. So once I became aware of those blinders, then I was like, oh shit, I started to see all the good that he was doing, all the help that he was giving to people. Like our whole entire childhood was other people's cars in our driveway that my dad was fixing, right? So I think what I'm trying to get at is just opening up the door to all of the possibilities that exist around you at all time to be able to help people.
Absolutely. Every chance you get, just be kind. You never know what someone went through that day. You never know. Maybe you were the person that saved their life because you smiled at them in the coffee shop and they were going to take their life that day. You really don't know anyone's story. So I think if we all are just kind 100% of the time, then it's going to collectively raise the consciousness of our entire world.
Yes. Okay, so now let's talk about the other 33, the 33% that's helping you. So you already did give some examples of like you could follow these people on Instagram, you could listen to their podcasts, you can read biographies. But is there any other ways of like just connecting to people that are at a different level than you are?
Yes, definitely. So I guess for me, it's a lot of therapy. So I do fascial stretch therapy and personal training, but I also know there's a lot of other trainers or physiotherapists or chiropractors that have even more knowledge than I do, and I go get treatments from them, and I feel like, wow, every time I go for a treatment on my own body, whatever it is, even if it's just for a maintenance, it brings that awareness to me of I learn from them. There's a different technique. There's a different way to approach it. So chiropractors approach from a different technique than a physiotherapist. So the body, for example, you could look from the bottom up, assess from the bottom up, the top down, or spine out, or joint by joint. And each different niche, you would say, or modality assesses differently. But when you start to combine them, you start to realize that really it's all important. And I know for me, every time I get the chance, like I need help, yes, with physical body. I always want to be at my best, and say, for example, for nutrition. So if I eat something, you just become aware, start becoming aware of your body, and whatever doesn't feel right or out of balance, you can research it on yourself, like in a book, or listen to a podcast or an article, or ask someone. So one of my friends, Andrea, she is brilliant, wise beyond her years, and she is like a holistic dietitian, and I text her all the time about any like dietary information, and the advice I get is just something I don't even know where I would find that sometimes. Like, it's just so crazy. Like, all of us have something to offer. So a big thing is like, look at your network. Who do you know? Everybody knows someone who knows somebody that has information for you. We all have something to teach somebody. So we all have something to learn from somebody. And if you start to talk and ask questions and be kind to someone, you're going to learn about them, of what they have to offer you. Every single person is in your life because they have something to offer you. Just be aware of it.
Yes, 100%. One of the big things that I got hung up on, I've gotten hung up on recently, is that one of the guys I follow on Instagram, Gary Vee. Do you know Gary Vee?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, he's huge. Anyways, he's like this entrepreneur, and he puts out a bunch of advice about becoming an entrepreneur. And the one thing that always burns me about him is that he he says, let the game be your mentor, right? He's like, learn by doing, right? And we've talked about that. And like one of the cornerstones of my coaching is like the how will be revealed by taking action. But I think there's a whole nother element of that, is that sometimes you need to talk to someone that's been there and done that, and that can save you years of trying to figure it out on your own, like just absolute years. And also sometimes you need someone to help you get through your own BS, right? Like you remove those blocks that you were completely unaware of. So I think that I agree with what he's saying, is just take the action and it'll, the how will be revealed. But I also completely disagree, because I think we're all put on this earth to help other people, right? And I've made some of my biggest leaps by buying courses and, getting coaches and having treatments, these kinds of things.
Well, what happened is he's exactly right. So here's why.
Okay.
So the how is going to reveal itself because you took action and it led you to those people.
Right.
Which means it's not just you doing it all on your own. It's you started taking action. The how will reveal itself. How led you to all those other mentors. Mm-hmm. So it's not just you doing it, sitting in a dark corner all by yourself, writing or creating your content. The how and the answers you want literally get revealed to you, yes, once you start taking action. And say you're asking for a sign or some extra advice, or like for me right now, I'm looking for extra people in my healing team. So like for my physical body, there's something missing of my training, and I put it out in the universe to help me find another healing practitioner for me. Okay? So it's not gonna be me just healing myself, because we all need extra. Mm-hmm. Or maybe my answer was start healing yourself and then someone else will come. If I'm starting to heal myself, I'm upping my vibe, which is going to attract that new person for me. If you're not taking action and your intent isn't to get to what you're trying to accomplish or the answers that you want, you have to make room for what's trying to be given to you. So when you're taking action, okay, you automatically put the intent out in the world that you're ready to receive.
Yes. And you have to also be willing to ask and be open to receiving it. Like a lot of people just aren't willing to ask, not say ask somebody, just ask the universe, ask God, whatever your belief is, and just say, hey, I need help with this, right? So it's about a sense of humility and coming to this awareness that we really know very little in the grand scheme of things. Yeah,
and this reminds me of a story that really kind of brought awareness to a lot of things. So in this story, I think it's a story in the Bible. I'm not 100%. I just remember hearing it a long time ago. So there is a guy standing on top of a mountain, per se. I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know the exact story, but I'll get the context across. And it's a big storm, and there's no one around to help him. And he's praying to God to save him. Okay, so God sends him a person in a helicopter, per se, to save him. Again, sorry if I'm butchering the story, but you know it. Yeah. I'm going to continue to save him. And he's like, no, I'm waiting for God. And then another guy comes on a boat, and a boat on a mountain. I know. Yeah. It's the context, guys. Yeah. And he's like, nope, waiting for God to save me. And then another guy comes on a parachute to save him again. Don't worry. Mm-hmm. And he's like, nope, I'm waiting for God. But that was God sending him those people. Yes. So just be aware of what's being brought to you, and not necessarily what's being brought, but the intent they're there to do. Their intent is to help.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was trying to get at. You have to ask, and you have to be willing to receive, and be aware that that's coming to you, right? And that's essentially what that story is trying to highlight, is that, all these signs were coming, and you were just so closed off to receive the sign in the exact specific way that you wanted to receive it. You had the blinders on, essentially. It's like a similar story, but the story, the way the story is supposed to go is this: it's like there's a flood coming, and he's in the house, and someone comes in a canoe, and he says, "Oh, I'm waiting for God." And then someone comes in a motorboat. He says, "I'm waiting for God." And then someone comes in a helicopter. He says, "I'm waiting for God." And then he drowns and he dies. right? And then he goes up to heaven. He says, God, I like waited for you to save me. And God's like, well, I sent you a guy in a canoe and a guy in a boat and a helicopter. Like, what else did you want me to do? Right? So that's the story.
Yeah, that story makes way more sense.
You killed the punchline.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay. All good. Okay, so let's move on. So that's step one, is the 33% rule. I think the big thing for people is that they're going to start like, oh, what do I got to do? How do I? But it's like just the awareness alone of the energy of the 33% rule will begin to make the shifts necessary. You don't have, it will help if you put a little bit of effort into it, but like just go easy on yourself, right? Just allow it to happen, because now that you're aware of this rule, you're going to start being aware of where your energy really is at most of the times.
Yeah, and all you have to do is practice. Just practice it, and eventually it will come easily and effortlessly. Just practice. That's it.
Awesome. Okay, so that's number one. This is
All right.
3 things that you can do that are free. You can start today that are going to dramatically improve your life.
Okay, number 2. Okay, this one's been tough, but this one is extremely impactful and helps on so many levels. Okay, so this one is be your own parent. Okay, so no one's coming to save you, no one's coming to help you. You're going to help yourself. Okay, by being your own parent, I literally mean be your own parent. Give yourself a bedtime. Give yourself limits to Oreos, whatever your snack may be. Are you going to not let your kid go outside? It's recommended at least 30 minutes a day, which they've dropped from an hour. But are you going outside? Are you connecting with the earth? Are you washing your hands? Are you showering? Are you doing personal hygiene? Are you wearing clean laundry? Are you being polite? Are you being kind to people? Are you eating 3 meals a day, or whatever is recommended by your healthcare practitioner? Everyone's different, but be your own parent. Okay? So for me, there was a time where I would eat breakfast and then I wouldn't eat till dinner, and I just felt kind of depleted in the day. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be my own parent. I don't even know where I got this information from, but one day I was driving, I had a meeting at 2:00, and it was about noon, and I know I'm not eating till 5 if I don't eat now. So I'm like, you know what? If I was 5 or if I was 7 years old, I would make myself eat. They're like, there's no way I'm not eating all day. So I stopped at the grocery store and I grabbed fruit. And I ate that, because if all else fails, I'll grab a piece of fruit or a vegetable or a healthy snack alternative. So that brought so much awareness to my overall quality of life. I can't even explain it. Like helping my bedtime. Sometimes, like, everything in life is about balance. So yeah, there's going to be times where you stay up late or have to wake up early for certain events or whatever, but for the most part, all those days leading up to that and all those days after, you're going to be in a routine. Outside time, sleep time, whatever you need to do to parent yourself. And a lot of times when you think you're going to parent yourself, you actually get a flashback to a certain age. So for me, it started when I was age 5. So how am I going to parent a 5-year-old? Then I'm like, how am I going to parent a 14-year-old? So it's a little different. It's like you're healing your past to heal your future. And I know this may be a little far-fetched for some people, but in the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
I'm reading that right now.
Yeah?
Yep.
That's so funny. See? Perfect timing.
Yep.
He talks about healing your past to heal your future, and healing your future to heal your past. So in order to really get a full healing and not have self-pity or play the victim, yes, maybe not all of us had a great childhood, but now it's time for you to be your own parent. Are you taking the steps to give yourself a solid quality of life? So I'm going to give you guys a bonus tip here, because a lot of people, especially if you're working or have kids of yourself, it's tough to have balance, especially with your timing and your schedule. A lot of us are go and fast paced right now. So in Ayurveda, it's a type of ancient Chinese medicine. You have 3 body types, okay? 3 archetypes. They're called your doshas, okay? You have Kapha, Pitta, and Vata, okay? So again, that could be explained in detail on another podcast, but for now, we're just going to talk about the balance of them. So all of us have those energies within us. So Kapha is like quiet, like a lazy Sunday, go with the flow, no stress, just have the day as it may, and you're mostly resting, okay? Pitta is a lot of us right now. It's fiery, go, go, go attitude, type A personality, gotta get this done, gotta get this done. And Vata is the more creative thinking type, can change their mind whenever, also going with the flow, maybe writing or reading a lot, okay? So every week, try to have one day of each and then apply accordingly to the rest of your week. So every day, have a rest day. Do nothing unless you want to, not because you have to. No obligation, guilt-free, lazy day, doing nothing, or go on a canoe ride or a car ride, whatever you want to do, okay? Another day, you need to organize and plan so you can execute your week appropriately. It's a creative day. Are you planning everything out? Maybe you're meal prepping. Again, this is not stress. This is not go, 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 go. It's more just gather information, plan accordingly. Then you have your Pitta. That is your action. You take action. If we're not taking action in the week, we're going to feel depleted and feel like we have a lack of purpose. Again, going with our 33% rule. So Pitta is action. You have to take action, especially on your purpose or your service. Create. Take a day to create, plan, and organize, and then a day to rest. In our week, we need at least one of those days to help us be at our absolute best and stay in balance. If not, when we're out of balance, stagnation happens, and that's when dis-ease comes in and a block of energy. So you need to be in an energy balance, okay? So we will talk about that more later on in another podcast, but one day of each. You can have 5 Pitta days. Go, 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 action, 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 work whenever you want, but then you need a day to plan and organize, and then you need a day to rest, okay? So that can be with being your own parent.
Yeah, I love that. I love that being your own parent. Obviously, that this is something I struggle with because I've been looking for a caretaker in my life, my whole entire life. Just because my mom died when I was young, and then I was kind of forced to take care of myself. And I took care of myself the way a 9-year-old would take care of himself. Like, no clue what he was doing. Didn't know the basic strategies. Didn't have proper eating habits. It's like whatever food I could get my hands on. Like, I wasn't preparing meals or doing any of these things. So this has been a big one for me. And that be your own parent, I think it's such a simple concept to understand, right? And it's just like, would you, like, I was just in my office today, I just ate like this whole bag of dried apricots, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't eat that whole bag of dried apricots, and now my stomach is just like turning right now while we're having this podcast. I'm like, would you let your 5-year-old eat a whole bag of dried apricots? It's like, no, it's like way too much sugar, right? It's like, it's just not healthy, right? So yeah, I think it's super simple and super practical, and I think people will get a lot from doing that.
So another piece to this is again, being your own parent, is how you would talk to yourself. So how are you going to talk to your kids? Even if you snap at them, you really don't want to. So you're going to treat them with unconditional love and forgiveness, and then give them a solution to any problem they may have. So do that to yourself. Be kind to yourself and through your process. If your kid doesn't do well on a test, you're not going to scold them for it. You're going to be like, okay, it's okay, it happens. But one, did you take the action necessarily to obtain it? Did you really try your best? And if not, then you take a different action and solution. Or you could do positive and negative reinforcement. Are you going to give them a reward or take something away? You could do that for yourself as well. It's psychological. It's going to work. Mm-hmm. So again, with the mind, like, how are you going to talk to your own child? Okay, a lot of us love our kids unconditionally, and when we're at our best state, we're going to talk to them with love no matter what they did, and we're always going to forgive them. So try to do that with yourself, and not just out loud, but it's really your internal dialogue.
Yeah.
So what's going through your head? Are you criticizing yourself? Are you beating down on yourself? Are you telling yourself you're worthless or have no purpose? That's absolutely not true. So how would you do that to a 7-year-old? And again, this next piece can also lead into a future podcast as well, is when we're 7 years old, for example, and we're someone's 7 years old and we say, oh, hey, Joey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And Joey's like, I want to be a rocket scientist. And everyone supports Joey. Everyone is like, you can do whatever you want as long as you set your mind to it. But now Joey's 16 and he says he wants to be a rocket scientist. And why are we shutting him down? No, you can't do that. It's too hard. Why are you giving him problems? Why don't you give him a solution to his dream? And this could go for you too. So if there's something you want out of life and you're trying to strive towards it, be 7. You can literally do anything you want to do. You want a career change? You do it. Find a solution. You don't like the job you're in? Either change your mindset around it or find a solution. If a kid doesn't like a sport when they're younger or an activity, maybe they need to complete the 2 more weeks of the season because you did make a commitment, but after that, they don't have to do it again. Why would you put your child in a sport or an activity they do not like for the rest of their life? You need to find something that gives you joy. If you're not finding joy in life, you're going to have stress, and that's going to lead to a lot of stagnation, which in turn, disease, illness, etc. So be kind to yourself. Treat yourself like your own child on every single aspect. Everything you say to yourself. Say, would I say this to my 7-year-old? If not, you have to switch the script.
Yeah. Okay. So let me add to that a little bit. So one is, in order to become aware of this internal voice, you need to be able to learn how to take a step into this observer mode where you start paying attention to what you're actually saying to yourself. So I teach my clients this a lot, where I'm saying, like, pick a few moments throughout the day. Like in the shower is one I like to do. When I first get into my car, when I walk through my front door, whatever it may be, like you can, when you're brushing your teeth, for example, and allow yourself to just observe the mind. Like just listen. Don't try and slow the thoughts down. Don't try and change them. Just observe what the mind is saying to you. So it's not like this is like this big powerful process, but what it's going to start doing is it's going to start making you aware of what's going through your head on a daily basis. And then you're going to find yourself observing more often, right? So you're going to start paying attention to when you're talking negatively to yourself. You're going to start paying attention to how the mind is reacting to certain situations, how it's reacting to certain people. So that's the first step, is just awareness of what thoughts are going through your mind. But I've also kind of been really putting my head around these 3 steps to change. So we know that the mental body has power over the emotional body, meaning we can choose to not feel a certain emotion just by bringing awareness to it. It's like, Andrew described it as putting on the comfy coat of like your favorite collapse. And the mind has power to say, oh, I see that bus of anger coming and I'm going to choose to not get on that bus. That's the power that the mind has over the emotions. So when we're trying to change the way we talk to ourselves and trying to be kinder, the first step I've noticed for myself about trying to change, that internal voice is, first I catch myself saying things out loud. Okay. So first I catch myself saying things like, if I was trying to change my internal voice, like things like, you're so stupid. Like, why the fuck did you do that? Right. And I'll actually be saying that out loud to myself. Right. And the things that we say out loud are 10 times more powerful than the things that we say in our subconscious mind. Okay. So the first step is I start catching myself saying things out loud and I put an end to that. Right. Then I'll start catching myself in the process of thought, right? And this is a really easy one to apply to judgment, right? It's like when you're judging other people, it's very easy to like catching yourself, oh, fuck, I'm judging that person again. And then you'll start catching it in your mind. So that's step 2, is you're catching the thoughts while they're happening in your mind. You're like, oh, there's that judgment again of other people. Observe it. And just the observation alone, I always use this example, but once you shine the light of awareness on something, it kind of like, it goes away, right? It's like when you shine a light in the dark corner and all the bugs scatter kind of thing, right? It's the same thing with the thoughts. And the last is you'll start catching just the energy of the feeling or the thought. The energy of the thought, I guess, is what it is. So you sense the energy of judgment coming up, and then you just right away you put an end to it, right? And once you get to that stage, you're like pretty much almost already free of that negative internal talk or the judgment of other people. So it's kind of like what I've found for my own self is like it's a 3-step process of catching yourself, vocalizing it, catching it in you're vocalizing it internally in the mind or the thought, and then catching the energy of the thought. And at that moment, you're pretty much free of it.
Yeah, and when you want to change it, some things that work for me is I'll notice that thought in my head and I literally visualize myself looking at it and be like, oh my gosh, you're so cute, good try, and then it goes away. So I'm acknowledging it, but being kind to myself in the process. I'll be like, not today, fear, or not today, guilt, or, oh, where'd you come from? Thank you for the reminder, but I'm good to go. But just have that confidence that you're pushing it aside. And you want to think of those negative thoughts or negative words or your language power of kind of like a wolf. So the more you feed it, the more it's going to grow and the more it's going to come back for more food. So if you starve it and be like, oh, not today, go elsewhere or disappear, then it comes back less and less and less, and you have to put less and less effort because you've already put the effort in from the beginning, and it doesn't want to come back as often.
The wolf gets weaker and weaker.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great analogy. Because like for example, for me, one of my, I'd say like collapses or go-to internal feelings is like, I'm just going to go back to doing what I know how to do, right? You know, like for example, like if I'm releasing an online program and, you know, it's not getting the traction, like people aren't signing up for the course or whatever it may be. My immediate internal voice is to go to that self-doubt, being like, what am I even trying to do this for? Like, well, I'm just going to go back to running a bar, doing what I know how to do, just make a bunch of money, right? But it's like, that is the internal voice of like self-doubt, of apathy, of, you know, playing the victim, whatever it may be. So now that I'm aware of it, it's like, yeah, sometimes I catch it a little later and 2 days in and I'm like, back to eating sugar and drinking pop, and then I'm like, whoa, wait a second, where did all this come from, right? And the more I catch it, the less power it has over me, right? So that's essentially with that wolf analogy, it's like slowly that wolf becomes a lot weaker and a lot easier to fend off. Ooh, that could be a whole book written there. Yeah, that's really good stuff. Yeah, so that's what I always say about these podcasts. Like I'm bring these guests on, and you know, like this, we're like spewing pure gold here, and you know, like maybe like 1,000 people will listen total. It's like, man, people are missing out. Anyways, maybe that's the ego, but okay, I love that wolf thing. Like I literally want to make a whole entire Instagram page about that. It's amazing. Anyways, okay, so we did step 1 and 2. Step 1 is the 33% rule. Step 2 is being your own parent. So what is step 3 that people can start doing like right now? Like literally you can start doing this immediately and your life is going to transform.
All right, so step 3. This one is going to be tough if you don't have the right intent, okay? So our intent, again, is kindness. So when we speak out loud, in our head, whatever, we want to make sure that every word we say, again, this goes back to the second one, what we're even saying to ourselves, let alone out loud, is you have 3 rules of speech, okay? So everything that comes out of your mouth, it has to pass 3 tests. Test 1, is it true? If it's not true, don't say it. Step 2, is it kind? You know, when we're kids and if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all. It's definitely true, and we need to follow that. So if it's not true and not kind, we don't talk about it and we let it go out of our head. We don't even think about it. Step 3 might be true, might be kind, but is it necessary? We sometimes preach a little too much in other people's lives or talk about someone behind their back or whatever it may be, but it needs to pass those 3 tests. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? A lot of times it might be true, but really it's not necessary, especially if you're talking about maybe someone lost their job and then your intent behind it is to kind of put them down. It's not necessary for you to say. Maybe say, oh, so-and-so is really embarking on a new journey in life. Like, I'm so proud of them. You can change your intent, but have a similar message across. But your intent is what's important. Is your intent true? Is your intent kind? And is your intent necessary? Okay? So again, this goes back to your internal dialogue. So a lot of things we say about ourselves, they're not true. You know what? You're not ugly. You're not useless. You're not annoying. So those things, for example, we don't even have to think them. We can switch the script again. So there's been many times where I'll be in an environment or around people, especially I've noticed this. I'm not even going to say it, but I've noticed this where other people talk about people just for the dramatic effect, but then they'll go to that person to their face and then talk about the other people they were just talking about them to. And I think that is just such a negative and vicious circle that it's just creating like poor energy in our whole universe. So if every single person followed this rule, imagine how high the vibe would be all around you all the time. You wouldn't have to always eliminate yourself from environments. You wouldn't have to try to have your own introverted ways, for example, where you don't want to be around anyone. Especially a lot of us, because we're here for service, we're very empathetic and we can pick up other people's energy. We don't want to pick up that negativeness. Imagine we're picking up everybody's positiveness. So again, we don't speak it if it's not true, if it's not kind or unnecessary. So those are huge, and you will 100% be presented with the opportunity to practice that probably within the next 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah,
So,
I 100% agree with that. And I mean, man, what an amazing place the world will be. And you know, I think a lot of this unkindness, judgment kind of mentality comes from our own internal sense of unworthiness, or, you know, so like I recently came to the realization that, you know, actually, this is kind of a wild story, and maybe we got time here. I'll kind of tell it. So, I think I've been pretty good at becoming really free of judging others. Like I pull myself away from situations where I feel like it's like a very judgmental kind of atmosphere, you know, or maybe I'll just won't say anything, like because I just don't want to be a part of that energy, right? So I'm kind of thinking, I'm pretty free of judgment. I'm not really judging too many people anymore. But I could still pick up on judging myself, okay? And when we are our own worst critics. Like we are the hardest on ourselves. We're harder on ourselves than we are on anybody else, okay? So if you want to become free of that internal judgment, the way to do that is to let go of your judgment of other people. So here I'm thinking, I've done a lot of work, and I don't feel like I really judge a lot of other people. And then I was gone away up north, and I was with my in-laws, and my mother-in-law and I were kind of like arguing of something small, and she said something to me like, "You always have to be right," or something, Dave, or you don't like being wrong," or something along those lines. And I don't know, for some reason it triggered me, and like I was a little bit upset, and I was a little bit mad, and like, you know, I recognized that I was in the state of anger or whatever, and I was doing what I do. And so then I'm like, why did that bother me so much that she said that, right? And so then we're at our friend's house, and I had my dog there, my little dog Beans, a little Chihuahua, and our friend's dogs were there, and this their dog went to attack Sweets, our other dog, and Sweets doesn't put up with that shit, right? So Sweets like snapped at her, and the dog went and like ran away, and then she went after Beans, and Beans ran, and she attacked her, right? And I was like, what the frick? This dog just picks on the weak. And then right in that moment, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, this is exactly what I'm doing and why I've been triggered by this whole situation. Because in my mind, I had this view of my mother-in-law, let's say, that, you know, like, and it was kind of subconscious, but I wasn't really aware of it. But until this moment, that, you know, she's not doing the spiritual work. Like I gave her the book, Letting Go. And if she's listening to this, she's going to be, you motherfucker, Dave. I gave her the book, Letting Go, when she was having some health issues, and she like read half of it. And then the health issues, it was a misdiagnosis, and then she never read the rest of it. And, you know, she'll read a book a week, but she won't go through Letting Go. And like right there, you can even sense the judgment in me still, right? So I kind of had this view, subconscious view, that I was, you know, that she was like not willing to go on the spiritual path, to do the inner work. And that was coming out. She was picking up on it energetically. Like I wasn't saying it to her, but she was picking up energetically. And then the situation with the dog happened. And what that was like, it was literally a gift that was revealed to me, that in order to make myself feel better, I pick on the weak, right? To lift myself and make myself, try and bring myself to the level of the dog that snaps back at other people, right? So, and it's so true. And I look at my relationships with people that I feel that are above me or at my level. I'm meek, I'm timid, I'm shy. With people that are below me, I'm confident, and I might even put them down, right? I might even judge them. So it was all revealed to me in like this one moment. And I couldn't sleep at night. I woke up in the middle of the night, I sat in a meditation, and like all of it came together in a picture. And I was like, holy shit. Right? This is why I'm still judging myself. This is why, because I still have, even though I've cured myself of the physical word, like actually saying bad things about other people, I've cured myself even of the thoughts, but there was still the energy, right? And then once I finally tuned into that, it was like, boom, I was free. right? And now I am aware of when I'm being meek and timid, when I'm around people that I feel are at a different level than I am. And I'm aware of when I'm around people that I feel are at a different, like a lower level than I am on the scale of consciousness. And I'm more compassionate and like loving and wanting to bring them up instead of trying to put them down to raise me up, right? So it's like, it was this like amazing experience to go through. And I think this is the way to speak is like the stepping stone to coming to these awarenesses so that you can be free of all that internal judgment and you can allow yourself to be worthy. Like that's really what we're all looking for, is to feel like we're enough, to feel fulfilled.
Yeah, and so I guess today all of our listeners are going to get a bonus reminder that every single person on this planet is doing their absolute best at each moment in time. You might look at someone and be like, wow, you really need to change your nutrition, or you should probably work out. Well, you know what? They're not ready. It's not their time. All you need to do is either pray for them, if that's what you believe in, or at the very least, send them unconditional love. Look at everyone and realize in every single moment, everyone is striving to be better. Every single person is leveling up every single second in one way or another, whether it's awareness or taking action. And what we can notice is there's different steps to behavior change, and we don't want to judge that because there's steps that we need to change. And say, for example, my exercise isn't on point. There might be someone whose exercise is on point. I don't want them looking down on me and judging me. But you know what? My sleep, my stress, my nutrition, my mindfulness, and my meditation, and my yoga and my kindness is all on point. I just haven't gotten that piece yet. And we also have to think that there's so many pieces and everyone's always continuously leveling up that we really need to just look inward. So if we're judging, what is it in ourselves that we're judging in ourselves? And this also helps us be kind to ourselves in our own process. Okay? So you could even look internally and be like, where am I at my exercise? We'll use that as an example. So in behaviors of change, you have a scaled model, and you have something called pre-contemplation. So you might look at someone in the restaurant and be like, wow, they should really work out. They look like they have high blood pressure, diabetes, man, they should really get their life in order. But they might be in pre-contemplation where they're hearing those things, but they're not processing because it's not their time, okay? And then maybe a couple of weeks or a year or 2 minutes later, you never know when someone's time will come. They go into contemplation. So they'll be like, you know what? Maybe I should change my lifestyle and exercise a bit. I'll think about going to the gym. And then they have preparation. They got their gym membership, they got new shoes, got a new workout, but they haven't started yet. And they're preparing for that new change. Then they have their action. Okay, so now they're taking action. They're at the gym. And again, people still are judging people on their action. Like say, for example, this guy's doing his exercise and someone's like, oh, you should really be in here 3 times more often. You're only in here twice a week, but we're still passing judgment. But really, he just started. So again, show compassion and unconditional love. Okay, then you have maintenance, where you've done the action for a continuous 6 months and you have a 50 to 80% chance less of relapse. So you could even look at this for your own lifestyle change. A lot of times we'll start nutrition or exercise for 2 to 3 months and then we relapse because we didn't make that 6-month mark yet. But then you have the step after that is called the journeying. It's a new lifestyle until you die, and it's easy and effortless and it's just part of your lifestyle. So maybe this man or woman has his meditation on point and it's easy and effortless. His nutrition is on point. He hasn't lost that extra weight yet, for example. His blood pressure's coming down and he's just in his exercise. We all have a category that we're working on. So as long as we show compassion to one another, it's going to completely change the overall energy of the earth, and going into situations or environments aren't going to deplete us, they're just going to fuel us. Again, what you give out, you're going to receive tenfold. So if you're passing judgment, there's going to be other people sending that energy towards you. And on days you might feel you're going in a flow, you might feel like a big whack of energy pushing you back down. Well, that could be that energy karmically that you put out there in the past coming to you. Now, quick tip on that, any energy towards you even if it's negative, just set the intent of any energy on you to positive and use that to fuel you instead. So that's a quick side note. We could get into that deeper on another day. Yeah. But again, everyone is doing their absolute best in every moment, and every single person is leveling up. So just remember that.
Yeah. And there's a couple of things that I would like to add there too. One is some people might stay in contemplation or preparation for their entire life. Like it could happen. Like people are moving up the scale, but there are some people that may stay in those states for their entire life. And we have to have acceptance for the fact that they're moving, but just a lot slower than maybe we would. And then the other thing that I would add is that the word should is any time we catch ourselves towards ourselves or towards others using that word should, that should be like a little record scratch moment. Like, well, wait a second here. What am I doing here? I'm passing judgment. I'm judging myself. So just really watch that word should. It's a great indicator for when you're judging others, and when you're judging yourself is when you find yourself, I should have done this, or they should be doing that. It's just like a great indicator, great keyword, whatever you want to do, call it. One question I did want to ask you though, Jamie, is like, what do you do about when you're around judgmental, negative people? You had mentioned that you turn the energy around to positive. That's one thing I don't understand. How do you do that, first and foremost? But how do you, like what I've done with being in judgmental situations, I just basically shut my mouth, right? I just choose to not engage in the conversation, and people pick up on it that I'm like not into it, and then the conversation shifts naturally, right? But is there any other techniques or skills or that you've used?
Yeah, so when we're in those environments or situations and that's happening, first go back to the 33% rule. Is your energy balanced? Because if it is, you caught it.
Yeah.
You will be able to handle it better because you're there maybe to hold positive space for these people. Okay?
Love it.
2, if your energy isn't imbalanced, you want to ask yourself 2 questions. Is this stressing me out, or is this causing me distress? Am I getting physiological symptoms, or is it just giving me like an emotional trigger? Okay? So if it's just stressing you out, 1, tell yourself you're here for a reason. Maybe what they're telling you, maybe they're right. Maybe what those negative things are just an indicator of something that you want to work on next. Maybe it's a sign. You never know. Mm-hmm. A lot of people in our lives, actually every single person we come in contact with is a mirror for us. Yes. Okay? So especially if you're hearing the same message over and over, if someone's saying, you know what, you've been really lazy, and you're hearing that in different environments, maybe look at that. Mm-hmm. Okay? So a lot of the times it could be just a message. But now if it's causing you distress, where you're physiologically sick, it gives you anxiety, or you don't feel right even going into the situation, don't go. Whether it's family, friends, whatever, you don't need to put yourself through that. Mm-hmm. And it's time to set a boundary. Yeah. Okay? So for boundaries, it's very important that you set boundaries because takers don't have any. Yeah. Givers need to set them. Yeah. Okay? So distress, remove yourself. There might be a situation where you have to be there. But again, do you have to be there, or do you just feel obligated to do it? Are you doing what you want to do in each moment of time? If you don't go to that, is it really a big deal? Or are you just going to feel guilty? So help relieve yourself from guilt. And once you become more aware of yourself and how you're feeling, it's really going to help you organize where you're putting your energy. So that's with people in your environment. Now, I have heard stories about myself even, and I'm like, where did this even come from? Because it's not even true. So it's like the game telephone sometimes, just people talking. So I'm like, wow, people are putting energy into talking about me. Thank you so much. Whether it's positive or negative, I'm just going to say, just put it out there. Whatever energy is being put into me, thank you. Positive or negative, it's fueling me somewhere, and that energy is just energy. Your intent on it is what makes it positive or negative.
I love it. Let's wrap it up with that. I think those were 3 amazing tips. Why don't we just recap them really quickly? Do a fast 2-minute recap.
All right. So first, 33% rule. Your energy, like-minded people, service, and your growth. Mm-hmm. Okay. 2, be your own parent. Balance your week. like a lazy day, relaxing day, an organized day, and then action, and then wherever you see fit. Okay? So again, being your own parent. This is very important. Parent yourself. Sleep.
This is what you
stress.
should do.
Should.
Yeah.
Sleep, stress,
Yeah.
exercise, nutrition, whatever it may be. Be your own parent, including kind words to yourself and helping yourself solve problems, not just keep pointing out to the problem. Number 3, the rules of speech. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And that includes what you're physically saying and your internal dialogue. If not, you don't say it. And that's it.
Amazing. That was really powerful stuff, and I think people are going to get a ton of value from it. So Jamie and I have stuff on the go. It'll be coming eventually. We're going to release it to the world at some point, but you're going to come back on, obviously, right?
Yeah, I guess apparently we have some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. So just so much knowledge and so much experience that I can think will really benefit everybody. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. If you haven't already, don't forget, click that subscribe button. Today's podcast is brought to you by Effect Apparel, which is clothing created to help you hold in mind positive states of consciousness, because what we hold in mind tends to manifest. So you can check out Effect Apparel at effectapparel.com or effectapparel.ca in Canada. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and I will see you again next Wednesday.